Alrighty then, welcome to part 2. So, I should first mention that I do use the octatonic scale very frequently. In action cues like this, I use it at the beginning, and I use it here. John Powell used it in How to Train Your Dragon. Do you remember the when he builds up to that? Right, builds up to the at the very beginning. I think it's "This Is Burke" is the name of the cue from the soundtrack. But anyway, yeah, he uses it a lot. So the octatonic scale is really simple to understand. I'm gonna go over here at the piano and play it. It's really just you either start with a half step or you start with a whole step and then you alternate. So for example, whole step, half step, whole step, half step, etc. And the one that starts with a whole step is my personal favorite. But it sounds like... The scales are really great for like wind runs and stuff. Right, and it works for like melodic because it has lots of tritones in it and lots of diminished chords, and it has a really actiony, film scory, non-cheesy sort of sound that's very useful. So I would recommend studying its use in film scores and trying to implement it in your own music if you want to go for that type of style. So yeah, so two things: planing and octatonic scales are very helpful for writing this type of music. But yeah, so as you can guess from that monologue, I use the scale to build up to this big section. So it has a 2-bar build up, and then it has this big melody here, right? And again, 3-bar structure. It's kind of weird, but we'll start off with the build up. So it starts with the violins. In doing their typical tremolo thing, which goes like this. So you notice it's any repetition that you can have gives you a sense of inevitability, like where you're going. So you play the same thing, you make the run sort of go into itself, the same thing an octave higher, and it gives you a sense of, oh, something's about to happen. Right? And then they go up into these big octaves, sort of like in the Beethoven symphonies. And they kind of burst at the end. So, yeah, and the second violins go into a triplet-y, again, the Danny Elfman figure that I like to use a lot. Right? And notice how the voice leading helps them lead up so that they join the first violins later. So, they start out separate. And they come together. And then the violins join them for the second half, an octave lower. They go like this. Right, just to fill in the octave. And then the cellos, which dovetail into the violas. And then they play that melody. And notice I didn't have to go bum 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 because that'd be way too high for the cello. I mean, they could play it, but it's not an orchestral, writing soloistic repertoire. And I mean, writing for a chamber ensemble is different because you have a single cellist and he has time to look at his part and blah blah blah. And, there's a lot less risk involved because he either gets it right or wrong. Whereas, if you hand the score to a bunch of people, they're not used to playing really high up on the fingerboard, so it's a lot of guesswork, and they just have to sort of play the part a lot of times and get it in muscle memory. It's not just like a finger position because it's all on one string. So it's not smart to write super high for any of the string instruments, except for maybe the violins. It's not smart to write super high for them if they don't have a lot of rehearsal time, because otherwise it's just guesswork. It doesn't matter how professional you are, you have to get the part under your fingers, which each different part presents different challenges. But anyway, yeah, so that's why, but that's still a nice, that lower range, boom, that tenor clef range, and that does warrant use of the tenor clef there in that particular instance. So yeah, and they blend really well with the horns in that register. Just look at Jupiter from the planets. Boom, bum, 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 bum. The horns and cellos are just great companions to each other. And then the double basses. again with that weird triplet figure. Doom dun dum boom bum bum boom bum. All right, so all of those strings together sound like this. Again, I brought the seconds down to give a bigger octave sound. You know, just using voice leading techniques so they don't just randomly jump down an octave, making their parts sound cohesive. So timpani builds up like this, and they go on an octave and have a fun little, because the higher timpanis have a very nice taut pitched sound to them. That's just very tight. It almost sounds like a totally different instrument when you have really high up on the kettle drums. So I kind of utilized that there. And at the beginning, you know, definitely sounds like Mars or like, you know, what was it? Koji Kondo's airship theme. Rum bum 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 rum bum 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 bum. So I don't hesitate to unabashedly tell where I got inspired for a particular part. But anyway, yeah, so bum 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 bum. The other instruments have this counter theme that I made sure goes well with this first theme. So it goes. It's basically this half of a bar theme that just gets constantly repeated and dovetailed into the other winds. So. And later, you know, I combine them in the other winds with with what these strings were doing. So, yeah, all of that sounds like this. Right. So, again, trombones and melody. I'll play it by itself. Right, and when they get to that part, dun 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 dun, the horns take the melody where it wants to go, and the trombones split off. Typical technique. So. So they go off in separate directions there, contrapuntally, and the horns start off with octaves and then go into, and that's another technique I like doing, where you start off with really sparse harmony, like octaves, and then they go into chords later, so it's like, dum, bum. It's sort of like the Batman technique, where you have single octave notes, you know, so when the final chord comes in, it just sends tingles down your spine, because it's the contrast in between the full harmonic chord and just a plain old octave is a really nice contrast. It makes the chord seem more powerful. So yeah, clarinets also do what the horns are doing, and they go into that octave. So they're going to sound like this. Right. So the piccolo. They have this nice little, again, octatonic run. Make sure everything works contrapuntally, like this. Kind of marching band style thing. And the clarinets have their own little fun little part that goes like this. And then they join what the ones are doing later, you know, bum 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 bum, and the second clarinets join in as well. So sorry, that was the oboes, not the clarinets. So easy to get lost in a score that's just big. But anyway, yeah. So just to play all the winds by themselves. So, and don't worry, I'm actually going to do, this is a side note, but I'm going to do a video on harmonic relativity where I actually talk about how I compose because I know even in Defending Our Homeland, I still was really talking about the structure of it, and I was talking about the orchestration, but I didn't really talk about the actual details of how I sit down and, you know, come up with ideas and come up with harmonic things. And harmonic relativity is a really useful system, especially for music like this. It has a lot of really complex, weird harmony, bitonality, stuff like that. So I will do a video on that as soon as possible. So yeah, horns on the chords, and enjoy melody later, and trombones and melody. So the trumpets are always missing. So we have bum bum ba da ba dum bum, kind of an interesting polyrhythm above the 4. We have 3. Right, kind of a waltz actually. Boom dum bum boom da da dum. It's really weird in combination with everything else, which is what I wanted. Right, so the brass all together sound like this. Right. Tuba is very simply just on pedal tones and then staccato notes, and then pedal tones going down an octave, yada yada. Timpani has a really nice run here. You know, fun little thing there. Tubular bell, interesting. Kind of a weird thing there. So, which goes with the harmony. But it's a tubular bell, so it'll cut, especially at the dynamic level it's out. So like this. So that's what that section does. So now we have a really interesting. Well, there's actually quite an interesting story as to how I arrived at this melody. I really like it. I don't know what it is about it. It's just really weird, and I like it. I have no idea why. And I actually came up with it on the harp first because I wanted to come up with a way of writing a seemingly chromatic melody on the harp without having to have a pedal change. So I gave them D flat, E flat, F sharp, G sharp, and A sharp. So they have a really weird scale that is like this. It's part of an octatonic scale at the beginning, but then it turns into a whole tone scale later, and it makes the harp sound chromatic even when it's not. So then I tried to come up with a fun little melody, and I did. And I was like, oh, well, that's really interesting. So then I kind of just messed around, and I don't know how it came about. And then I started doubling it on the other instruments like the crotali, right? And then the violas, I think, are doing something else. They're doing a similar thing that they were doing at the beginning. And I realized that, I also combined it with the bassoons, but I realized that it would work really well if I added chromatically planing trumpets going downwards, which is reminiscent from our material at the beginning. But here they're just going down. So I think the chord progression is... which is really interesting. So it's like, for example, B flat major, and then D minor, right, and then A major, and then C sharp minor, and then you can continue moving downward, and it's an endless chord progression, but it's really unique, and it's not really like anything that I've heard before. So anyway, it just makes a really weird texture. I mean, I'm not tooting my own horn or anything. I'm just saying I came across it accidentally, and it's sometimes if you mess around, you can come up with things you wouldn't normally come up with. So it goes like this. It's a kind of weird sound, and then I developed it into another run that builds up into the big melody. So... right here, wait, hold on, this should be up an octave. I don't know what that's doing there. This should all be up an octave. Yeah, sorry about that. Okay, so the bass line has a similar contour to the idea we talked about a second ago, along with the upper violins and the flutes building up the counterpoint, and then the oboes and clarinets along with the horns carry the harmonic backdrop, right? And all of that sounds like this. So 3 ideas going at once. And notice, even in the most complex textures, I rarely go over 4 ideas unless it's just a color thing. contrapuntally. So even in the most complex textures, it's where the parts interweave out. Like sometimes a part will go to one idea and then switch to another, and then they'll transition to each other. That's what makes it complicated. But in reality, you should only have 3-4 ideas going on at once. Otherwise, it's just going to sound too chaotic and random. So anyway, so yeah, then we have this big push here. You know, this nice doom bum bum ba dum dum. So first we have the big melodies and the upper flutes, the piccolos, and triple octave strings. You know, for the big sound. Right, and then a deceptive cadence. We go into a modulation there. But anyway, so yeah, underneath that we have the a similar rhythm that I use for Iguana Man, and from E.T. Bum bum ba ba bum bum. You know, it goes like this. Right. And I kind of gave it a major seventh. You know, I tried to make it a little. I didn't want to make it too cliche, like, you know, boom, bum, bum, ba da da da. You know, I didn't want to make it too unambiguous and obvious harmonically, so I did add a major seventh chord in there. And then the tuba comes in and gives a nice little low bass drum, bum bum boom. You know. A nice little bass line there, and then along with that, the trumpets are doing a version of their ba 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 that works here, and it's not too long that they don't need breath because they give them breath at the ending here, so they can play all this in a single breath. So similar idea, ba 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 ba, but working with this harmonic context. Right. So all of that. Goes together like this, along with the lower cellos and the contrabasses on those pedal tones. Right. So, and along with that, we have a fun little timpani line, which has an interesting rhythm. So. Right. And then, of course, typical cymbals. And then, so we just have the harmonic background, and then the melody, and then along with that, we have one more textural idea, which is just this kind of a triplet thing here, which the crotales, and the harp are doing. So it sounds like this. Right, and the crotales sort of just take it while the harp goes to runs. And crotales are really loud. They can definitely be heard as just kind of a shimmer in the background. So adding all of that together, it sounds like this. And then again, using that trumpet planing I did, leading into a new section here. So. Big chord, really, really simple. Starts off with just the violoncellos. Sorry, my apologies if I call them violoncellos, because that's their traditional name. I'll try to call them, because I'm so used to looking at the word on the left, but I'll try to call them cellos. But yeah, cellos. You know, pretty cliche, typical figure there, and then they start out at forte, but then they sort of calm down. They start out as the main idea, but then the main idea becomes the backing idea for this wind melody, which goes like this. Almost reminds me of something from Chronicles of Narnia. Right, and then the clarinets split off into this. They split off into this harmonic contrapuntal thing here. Again, following part writing rules, and the clarinet, the oboes have this march sort of like figuration. The beginning almost reminds me of the Ewoks. You know, that type of a thing. While they sort of provide backings as the cello comes back and sort of takes back its main material. So to play just the cellos and those winds, No, stupid program does this to me. What are you doing, program? Goodness me. I swear. I swear. So the winds and just the cello sounds like this. Right? So, and the cellos sort of go into this harmonic figuration too, which I also... You know, and you might notice I use that figuration in defending our homeland. I have no problem with reusing material if it serves well as a harmonic background. Obviously, if you're going to come up with a melody or a main idea, you should definitely try to come up with something new. But I don't have a problem with, like, you know, every now and then using that nice little background figuration that you, as long as you stay away from it as much as you use it, I don't have a problem with it. I mean, pretty much all the main composers, Beethoven, Mozart, Tchaikovsky, they all had their fun little quirks that you notice pop up in their, you know, it's more of a stylistic thing than anything. You know, ba-ba-ba-bum, and then it kind of has this triplet ba-ba-ba-bum, that leads it into the new section. So, and then the contrabass is just on a pedal tone, just low sustain. The only other idea we have is the violas, which have their own contrapuntal idea. Nice little idea here. So again, all that together sounds like this. So we get into this new section where the trumpets just have our usual accompaniment thing. Right? But they go to the Dorian, I think that'd be, what would that be? E major? Yeah. B minor then G, the B minor then, you know, E major. Bum 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 bum. Again, trying to keep the voice leading fairly nice there. Timpani's just doing his normal dum 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 bum 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 bum, you know, typical stuff. The contrabass does come in for a little bit of bass stuff for the second half of that. Give it a little fullness. And the horns have this nice little melody. All of them. So all that together sounds like this fairly simple texture. And the winds lead up, which you might remember is developing our previous material. And that's the main thing. You want to come up with a little bit of material and then develop it. You don't just want to constantly go to new ideas because then it's going to sound random. You want to take little cells and bits of your material and constantly be developing them and using them, recycling them as much as possible, because it's going to make the whole piece more cohesive, and it's going to feel like it's you're all leading people down a story with all the same characters. If you just came up with new material constantly, I mean, yeah, that bespeaks genius and geniusness on the part of you, the composer. But it's like reading a book where every chapter, oh, here's a new character. We're going to read about Bob in chapter 1. Now we're going to read about Mary. Now we're going to read about John. It's like you can't develop any of the characters if you're constantly moving to new stories. Now that doesn't mean you can't have different characters, but you got to be really tasteful in the way that you go back and forth between them and have them interact with each other. But anyway, monologue over. So yeah, piccolos and flute on that quirky idea. Right, and then oboes on the trumpet planing thing, along with the bassoon. Right, and then clarinets holding down harmonic. Goes like this. Right. That's pretty much it. I figured it'd be nice to give a textural, to give those ideas to the winds, because before they were on the brass, I give it a nice textural interest, and then of course the, bass. Right. All that together sounds like this, along with the previous idea and wind run leading up to it. Alright, so then we go to this new material, which is, I don't know, it just popped into my head. It's not really related to the previous. It sounds like it's somewhat related to the doom, bum, 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 because it's also Lydian, but it's just more of a transition material than anything, which it goes bum, 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 just very simple whole note melody. which is in clarinets as well as the horns and the first violins. So I'll play just the idea. Whoops. Sorry, hold on. I accidentally held the shift key instead of the command button. Here we go. Here's the melodic idea. Just in thirds, and then, you know, unison with the first violins. And then we have this bum ba bum 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 bum, similar textual idea, again, that I've used in previous pieces. Right, which I, you know, unashamedly admit that I use in other pieces. And then, again, we have this, the trumpets on their ET type thing. Another modulation. And that's another thing, too, is that this piece modulates a lot. Like, every 3-4 bars, it modulates into a new key, which is a very film score-y style. Bum, 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 and the trombones join the horns later. Bum, 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 bum. Or wait, yeah, they join them later. Here, I'll play just the horns and then the trombones so you can see at what point they join in. And then the chords. And then bass line walks up. And it's nice to have a pedal tone. I think we're in C. If you move the bass line, which we're in the, you know, C, up to D, it gives a very nice sound, like you feel like you want to go somewhere. When you go, so it gives you a sense of like, oh, what's going to happen, but in a more positive way. Into the, which leads on into the section, you know, sometimes just changing. And that's one thing that John Williams uses a lot too, is he'll have all this consonant, melodic stuff above, and then this weird bass, you know, undertone, which just gives an unsettling feeling to the entire thing. It's a very effective dramatic device. All right, so where were we? So we have this wind, and then we have the melody, and then we have all of the accompaniment on the cellos, the violas, and the second violins. All of that together sounds like this. And of course the winds go into a run later. Alright, so the harp joins the winds in their run later. You know, like this. Alright. Flutes have a nice little fanfare at the end. Along with the oboes, both in octaves that can be heard. So yeah, the only really other thing to say about this section is the timpani, which is a nice line. Interesting little rhythmic thing. I always try to give timpanists fun things to play because they're always bored out of their mind. And then we come to my personal favorite section of the piece, this nerve-wracking string section. Alright, so kind of interesting string writing. So first off, we have this string thing, this top line. Alright, kind of chills out. It kind of has a weird moment because normally when something chills out, it goes downward, but they go upward, but also chilling out at the same time. So it gives it a sense of tension, but also relaxation. And then we have the seconds, which have a reverse Danny Elfman. And then along with that, we have a cello line, which also does the reverse Danny Elfman, but has some interesting changes later. It changes into a reverse string, you know, the string does that reverse. So which makes for a very interesting part writing sound. Again, making sure that all this works contrapuntally. Right? And then along with this petal tone bass line, which starts out with staccato. Right? And then we have this extra bassoon line that I talked about earlier. You know, boom, 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 da, 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 da. But it's in part writing with like it's rhythmically doubling the cello, the bassoon is, but they're different parts. Like they're not contrapuntal. They're in thirds, but then they slightly, I don't know what to call that. It's not really counterpoint because they're going in the same direction and doing the same thing rhythmically, but it's not really just like thirds or sixths because sometimes the voice leading change. We'll just call it part writing. They're in part writing, and then the flutes build up to the strings, you know, holding that sustained tone out, while the piccolo continues the run going downward, gives it a little bit of activity, so it's not too boring. Just going down in chords, and then a very subtle tubular bell going, boom, 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 which leads into this next section, which I will play. Like this. Alright, so this is my second favorite section of the piece here because we can bring in the melody that we haven't played until now. You know, boom, bum, bum, ba da da dum, ba dum, bum. So again, there's something vaguely familiar about it because it's a development of the previous material. So I also like the string thing. I don't know what is about it. It just has a nice sound to it. Alright, and then they kind of split off into the second saber. We'll talk about that in a second. So just for this first part, yeah, the bass line is very simple. It's just boom, 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 right? And the timpani has low octave and then high up, you know, right? So, and the horns have the main line. And I use the same technique that I use in Defending My Homeland, where since they can't go up, bum, 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 well, they probably could go there. It'd be really difficult, and I didn't want it to be that crazy. That's when the trumpets take over and go bum, ba, bum. And of course, that's only the sound of one trumpet, but in the final thing, it's a bunch of trumpets. And we also have the violins, which help to accent that higher melody line. Alright, and then while it goes bum bum bum, we have a counter melody, which is basically again canonizing boom bum 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 bum, and it goes, you know. While that's happening, we have. So let's see if that goes. So it's basically creating a canon in of itself, which also helps. We're developing our material while we're playing it for the first time. So there you go. So yeah. So let's see. I also think we have the upper cello on that, going like this. So that, in combination with the melody, the canon or whatnot, sounds like this. Goodness me! I swear this program annoys me sometimes. I just make me want to kill myself. Here, hold on. Let me see if I can select all this. Goodness me. Yeah, okay, so. So you see how they work together contrapuntally. And then, of course, we have our usual wind drum, just to give a sense of exaltation. Alright, so. Trombones with their thing. Same. Right. So that's pretty much it. It's pretty simple. It just builds and builds in complexity, but it starts out very simply. So, and then underneath this melody, we have a nice little counter line. So bum 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 boom, ba 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 ba, and then it goes into the melody later. Similar thing we did at El Guaname, where it starts in a counter melody, but then goes into the main melody later. So it sounds like this. So the first violins are a little bit different, whereas the first violins have bum 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 bum. The piccolos and flutes run up to it. So everyone's kind of separate and they sort of come together at the end. Yeah, the bassoons have this nice little bass line that picks and chooses from. Alright, so fairly complex. The horns are still on melody. Then the continuation of the melodies, boom, bum, 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 which I ripped that from the Rite of Spring, which goes boom, ba, or boom, bam, bam, boom, boom, bam, boom. So totally different context here, and it probably sounds nothing like it to you. But that is why I took my inspiration. I always love that melody. Yeah, so all of those things, I'm trying to figure out the best way to explain it because it does get a little bit complicated later, so... It's really these two bars right here are pretty simple. It's right here for this bum 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 boom bum bum. That's where the parts start getting pretty complicated. So first of all, the winds go into this. Alright, so nice little individual piccolo line, and the flutes are actually doing the same octave, but the flutes switch down to parts and then sort of combine together contrapuntally until they're in the same octave. Pretty so fitting together like cogs to fit their ranges, and then we have the oboes, which do a similar thing but different. So see how they work together, and then clarinets. Boom, bum, 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 boom, bum, bum. And then bassoons, which play the same contour as the melody, but with a different part, along with the horns, with the main melody. And then, of course, the trumpets on the usual dum bum ba ba bum bum ba ba bum ba bum, and a nice little Superman cameo there. And then trombones start out on unison, bum, 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 but then they split into parts. Alright? Which sounds like this. And then tubas on the low bass along with the timpani. And then tubular bells. Along with this harp run, boom. So I don't really need to play those. And then boom, 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 boom. I want a nice thick sound, so I didn't have them up the octave because they'll be nice down there. And then we have a little bit of voice crossing here, where the lower violins go, which is what the flutes are doing, and then the strings go into chords there. So, and the cellos are on. So similar to the melody, but a little bit different to fill in the harmonic patchwork in some of the cases. So just the strings. So they get a nice open strings, chords. All together with everything sounds like this. Cymbals always help. So, and then we repeat the melody. We repeat the ending of the melody and sort of develop it and turn it into an ending. Boom, ba. Oh my gosh, that was the worst. So the winds are just on this, bum, 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 providing the rhythmic backbone that the trumpets are doing a second ago, and then they have this little counter melody, bum, 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 and then a final little cadence, bum, 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 bum. All right, so boom, bum, 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 bum. Nice little string writing here, 4-part writing. Alright, and while that's happening, we have a final last little cameo of our previous theme, boom, bum, bum, or boom, bum, bum. I can't even freaking hum it. Oh my gosh. Boom, bum, da, 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 da. And the harp in octaves. And then a nice little relaxing pastoral wind chord with the clarinets and bassoons. And then a soft little timpani for the ending along with the harp. So along with pizzicato bass. There you go. So yeah, that's the entire piece. Again, the score is in the description. I hope you got something out of this. I know I'm mumbling and going all over the place, but it is a very... There are so many things that are running through my head where I'm constantly wondering if I should tell you that or not, because I don't want to make the videos really long and really boring. Like, there are so many, like, should I tell you why I came up with that, or the harmonic thing, or how it's working contrapuntally with something else. So I'm constantly thinking about things and then discarding them and not telling them to you because I feel like you don't want to hear it. So I hope that this at least gave you some insight as far as how it works texturally for a more complex film scorey style than like Defending Our Homeland, for example. So but anyway, as I said before, if you have any extra questions or anything, feel free to comment and I will try to get back to you about anything musically regarding this piece. So yeah, I hope you got something out of the video, and I will see you in the next one. Bye. Oh, and I'll go ahead and let you listen to the final piece mocked up with Senna samples.